Hello and welcome to I Am Well podcast. I'm your host Gemma, a nutritionist and a hormonal fasting coach, passionate about self-development through a holistic lens. But my biggest mission is to help empower women and get them to reconnect and trust their bodies again. So if you're a woman who just wants to better herself and live her best life, you're listening to the right podcast. So let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to I Am Well podcast. How are you all? I hope you're well. Today's episode is a deeply personal episode and one that I felt called to do because I'm experiencing when I'm working with clients and we're trying to heal hormonal imbalances or we're trying to make them feel better in their bodies and gain that confidence. It always comes down to women never feeling good enough, not having a voice, not having that confidence. So I thought, what better way to show you that I live and breathe what I teach than to tell a bit of my story, get us closer, get to understand me better. But also, I really hope at the end of the day that this helps someone else out there. Now, I do want to put out there that this episode might be slightly triggering, but I do want to say it does have triggering aspects in there. So if you feel like when you listen to this, some things might pop up for you or come up for you that might be slightly triggering for you, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a doctor. So please seek your GP or see your therapist or psychologist. There's so many options out there now. How many times do you hear the BetterHelp ads on podcasts and things? You could literally go online now and speak to a psychologist or a therapist. And I do believe in finding someone that works for you and can listen to you really. And sometimes that takes a few goes. To be real with you all, I still am finding my own. So anyway, the reason I'm creating this episode is for the women out there who feel lost, who feel overwhelmed, who have kind of lost sight of who they are, don't really know who they are anymore. This episode's for you. How to come home to yourself, how to rediscover who you are. I always talk about reconnecting with your body, and this episode is just that. It's reconnecting to your body while also quieting the mind where it's fearful, the mind where it's trying to protect you. So telling that part of you that, okay, you've got me this far and thank you for that safety, but I'm ready to be my own person now. I'm ready to move on. Anyway, I find this came up because working with clients, I find that most of them, the common scenario that I find is they're always outsourcing their power. So they're always looking for one quick fix. They're finding doctors to diagnose them and then to treat them and then say, okay, now everything's better. Or once I get my hormones all balanced, then I'll feel better. For so long, I blamed everything on my autoimmune disease, my Hashimoto's, and said that's the reason why I get anxious. That's the reason why I get depressed. That's the reason why I'm disorganized. Literally anything you could think of, I blamed it on my hormonal imbalance. And sometimes it's the other way around. It's when we start to connect with ourselves and our body again, when we start to love ourselves, when we start to actually feel like we're good enough, then the hormones start feeling. Your hormones will be balanced. Your period will come regularly. And people say stuff like this, and I don't want to make you feel like it's, you could be at the other end saying it's not that simple. But I would then contest that and say, is that your mind telling you that though? Because it wants you to stay in the same place. When I was young, I grew up in a really nice home. I would say I was quite privileged. I didn't have a really hard life. I always got like clothes. I was always well taken care of by my parents. So there's nothing there to say like, that's the reason why I'm anxious now. That's the reason why I had low self-worth when I grew up, because I had a nice home. I had nice parents. I had loving relatives, like great friends. Everything was fine. But the research does show that the reason that you have low self-worth, the reason that you have little trust in yourself, that you feel unsafe, is because of what happened in your early childhood. So from the ages of 0 to 7, there's actual research to show that this age, you're in pretty much all the time a theta brainwave state. So theta is what as adults, we go into theta when we're sleeping. And that is like the most impressionable state that you can be in, where you're able to take in that information and just fully absorb it and fully become it. So when you're in the ages of 0 to 7, you are in this state, you're really impressionable. So this is where your beliefs come through. This is where your trust, everything that, all your values and everything is pretty much stemmed from this. So this is why I say to clients, okay, you're feeling like you're not good enough. You're giving yourself such a hard time. You feel like you're not motivated enough. Go back to your childhood and pick out things that you can remember. And you know what? They might not be triggering. Like when I look back at my childhood, I don't find anything that is super traumatic. Like from the ages of 0 to 7, nothing really big traumatic stuff happened. But I do remember little things, like little scenes and scenarios. And it wasn't hugely traumatic, as I said. Things like I remember going to after school care, and I think like I was a bit smaller than most of the preps at that age. So I remember going to after school care and being taken care of as like a little baby. Like they looked after me like I was a little baby. These older girls, I don't know what grade they would have been. Because like, as I said, I'm remembering this as my younger self. So who knows how it really could have felt, but this is how I remember it in my eyes at that age. But I remember like walking over with people in my class and they didn't really want to hang out with me, or as I said, maybe they did, but I felt like they didn't want to hang out with me. And I remember just wanting to fit in, just wanting to feel good enough to play with the older kids, to be with everyone else. And I felt like I had to play into this young version of me that was real scared, shy, so that someone would take care of me. And then they did, and they took care of me, but they didn't make me a part of their own. I was looked after as like a little baby, literally a baby. I remember them creating like this little corner area where I would sleep, and then they were able to watch a movie. Now this is after school care. I wasn't a baby. I was like 5. So I just remember that. And it's funny, as I said, it's not hugely traumatic, but it's funny how I remember that. And that can come up nowadays as being, I feel like I get told a lot as I've grown up that I look really young for my age. And as soon as before I can get a word in, they're like, oh, but that's really good. That's amazing. You're going to love that when you're older. And I get that. And yeah, each to their own. But it always made me feel like I didn't fit in, like I wasn't good enough. It always made me feel little. And I didn't want to be little anymore. I wanted to fit in. So I think I've had that longing to fit in, that longing to feel mature enough or old enough to be a part of the adult. I think I've had that longing since between the ages of 0 to 7. Another example is I was always scared of animals. I was scared of dogs, just any dogs. If you're watching this, you can see my dog is right next to me right now. But yeah, I was always scared of dogs. I was always scared of animals, any sorts of animals. And it's just funny now because I'm like, I don't have as much fear as I did back then. It still creeps in from time to time. I remember when I was older and I was so frustrated and annoyed with myself that when we went, it was like a zoo and everyone was holding a baby crocodile with its mouth taped up. I couldn't hold the crocodile, and I was so frustrated with myself, and I felt so ashamed and embarrassed. And I remember, I think it was my dad saying something like a joke, like, haha, she's so scared of the baby crocodile or something like that. And I took such offense to that. I was so angry, but it was because I was so frustrated because I was trying to be like that little girl again, that one that didn't want to feel little or insecure, that wanted to fit in. Whereas, you know, you see people that have confidence with who they are and themselves, and they don't care. And in that moment, if I had confidence, I would just be like, yeah, I'm scared of crocodiles. I don't want to hold it. See, this is where it's all stemming from, between those ages of 0 to 7. So those were like the sorts of little traumas when I was young that play into who I am today. It's made me feel like it's made me realize when I go back and look at that kind of stuff, like, I'm a highly sensitive, emotional person. I am scared of being alone. I'm always wanting to fit in. I'm sure this kind of stuff is probably sounding quite similar to yourself. These things are important to go back and look on because they're playing in your everyday life right now. And this is what I was saying to my clients. We can't get you to get you to have the body that you want, the body of your dreams, or feel like once your hormones are balanced that everything will be falling into place, because you will always have this part of yourself. You will always have this part of yourself that still doesn't feel good enough, that still is longing to fit in, that's still worried about being on their own. That part of you will not go away until you give it room until you bring it into the room. You give it light. That's where the real, true transformation happens. So that was like a small little thing, like a little glimpse of my 0 to 7-year-old self. I, in that time, went through a lot of changes. We'd moved states so many times. I literally cannot remember. You'd have to ask my parents now. I was like born in New South Wales, and then we moved to Victoria, and then we moved to Northern Territory, and then we moved back to Victoria, and all between that time is when we moved. So my most impressionable self was going through the most craziest changes, and that would have been highly stressful for my parents. I don't remember ever going, oh my God, they seem really under a lot of stress, but I'm sure that those emotions would have been felt at that age. So it was all about that longing to be safe. I then grew up, and I went through something quite traumatic between the ages of 10 to 13. However, I didn't know they were traumatic. I didn't understand what I was going through. This is the part that might be triggering for anyone listening, so please switch off if it's too much. But yeah, between those ages is when someone who I trusted, who I felt safe with them. Well, I should have felt safe with them. They broke that trust, and they crossed boundaries, and they made me feel unsafe and alone and confused between what was right or wrong. And that time was I think one of the most pivotal things in my life that from that moment lowered my self-worth as I got older. You know, they took advantage of me. I'm not going to go into exactly what happened, but I never spoke up about it. Since that age, I shut down, and I felt like I had to kind of go into survival mode, and I had to figure out how to look after myself. I didn't believe that those people around me were going to look after me. I felt like I had to look after myself. So as I got older, that stuff stayed with me, but I never spoke up about it. I never told anyone. I'm 30 now, and the first time I started speaking about it was last year. And still to this day, there's a lot of shame and mess around it. It feels icky. It feels wrong to talk about. Even talking about it on this podcast is like, I was so nervous. But I think knowing that I have a range of listeners from all over the world definitely helps. knowing that I could just impact and help one person out there makes it all worth it. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because if you've gone through something, it might not have to be as triggering or traumatic, but this is playing up in who you are today, and this is why you're not feeling good enough in who you are today. And if there's a part of you that feels so lost and you don't know who you are anymore, it's because that there's a part of you that actually is ready to let go, which sounds insane. There is that child within you that needs your attention, needs your love, but the feelings and the emotions and the identity of that part of you, that's ready to die. It's ready to shed. It's ready to let go of. That's the part that is what's really holding you back here. So you can be a client of mine and I can give you all the things to help you with your hormones. I can help you cycle sync. I can tell you the foods that are going to help build up estrogen, that are going to help lower progesterone if it's too high, or increase it if it's too low. I can help you fast your cycle if that's something that you're wanting. But all of it doesn't matter. Like, I am here, like a registered nutritionist telling you this right now. All of that doesn't mean shit if you are not feeling good enough, or that you're feeling lost, or that you don't understand yourself, because that will eat away at you. That will eat up inside of you. And that's actually going to be your biggest illness. It's not going to be the fat on your body. It's not going to be the imbalanced hormones. It's going to be the worth that you have for yourself. I know this episode is so deep. I hope everyone's still holding on, still with me. I just want this for your biggest takeaway out of all of this is I want you to come home to your body, to reconnect with it. And that's why I go into fasting. The whole point of fasting isn't to lose weight, or isn't to, I don't care what your health, I do care what your health goal is, but I don't care in this circumstance, okay? Fasting is to quieten the noise that's happening in your body. Sometimes your body's so busy trying to digest things and all that stuff that we're trying to quieten the body from doing all that stuff at the moment, so that you just have your mind and your body and you just understand it. You just start to listen to it, and you'll be able to quieten your mind through this process. And people don't like to do this because eating is a coping mechanism. It's a way of quietening the noise. People don't like to, if you don't like to be on your own and be in silence, like not watch your phone, not do anything, then that's so telling. They're so telling that you don't trust yourself, that you don't feel safe with yourself, that you are longing for that safety. And this is hence why I am sort of going through my own rebrand, retransformation, because I no longer want to be seen as the women's hormonal health coach. I want to be seen as someone that can help you live your best life, transform, reclaim your body and your self-worth. And it all ties in together. I always felt like I couldn't be a mindset coach and I couldn't be a hormonal coach. I had to choose one or the other. But what I'm realizing is you can't have one good without the other. If you want to live your best life, if you want to feel happy, if you want to feel whole. So what's the point? I'm here to hopefully help transform and change someone's life for the better, to figure out who they want to be, to what's going to make them happy at the end of the day. That's what I want to do. It's no point helping you with your hormones if you're not happy. So as I said, if you're feeling like you're lost, you don't understand who you are, this is because there's a part of you that's ready to let go of. There's a part of you that's ready to shed. I saw something on TikTok. I've probably said it in the podcast before. I can't remember. Maybe I've said it to my client, but where it was saying if you have any form of depression or anxiety, or say you're ready, you're feeling like you just want to give up, especially if there's any thoughts of suicidal ideation, I highly recommend please speak to someone. Please speak to your GP, a friend, anyone. I will actually put a number in the show notes below just in case anyone needs help. But if you're feeling that way, it could potentially also be that there's a part of you that's actually ready to die. So it's not you, it's a certain part of your identity that is ready to shed, that is ready to let go of. So here's my biggest takeaways from all of this. Number one, remember, if you're feeling like you're not worthy, it's not you entirely. It's that part of you, that inner child, that part identity that you had either between the ages of 0 to 7, or either maybe when something traumatic happened when you were older. That part of you is ready to be listened to. You need to listen to that part. What does that part of you need? What does it need? Does it need to feel safe? Does it need to feel loved? Listen to that part, bring light to it, and then tell the part that also helped keep you safe during that time. You know, maybe it was a controller part of you. Maybe it was a part of you that was always would shut down, would disconnect from your body, or whatever it is, just to help you survive, just to help you get through those times. That part of you you're ready to let go of. Thank that part of you for serving you this far, for getting you this far. You're ready to let go of it now, because you're becoming the person that you're turning into. They always say, don't give up when it starts to get really hard, because when it starts to get really hard, you're about to have your biggest breakthrough. So if you're feeling really lost, really confused, don't know what's the point with anything, you are about to have your biggest breakthrough. So it's about letting that part of you feel understood. And then 2, this is where I give you the tools. There's the fasting tools, there's the nutrition, the mindset tools, all of this to reconnect to the body, to quieten the noise in the mind and reconnect with your body. They are going to be your biggest tools to help that connection again. Once you start getting that connection again, then you start having more awareness and you start trusting your body again. The more trust that you have in your body, the more trust you'll end up having with yourself. And then 3, I want you to start showing up for yourself. Building self-trust requires you to have examples of it. So if you keep saying to yourself, I'm going to start going for walks, twice a week or something, or each morning on a weekend, I am getting up and I'm going for a 30-minute walk, whatever it is, and then you don't show up and you don't do it, you're proving to yourself that you fail yourself. And that just brings on the shame and guilt and the not feeling good enough. We need you to start giving your body and yourself examples of where you are showing up for yourself. And there will be times like that you showed up for yourself today. Like you got out of bed, you got dressed, you got ready. That's showing up for yourself. So maybe start with that. Start writing those down, because the more times that you start training your brain to think of those times, those little consistencies, that's what your brain will start to remember and will start to think more about. And you'll start to show up in other ways. You'll start to go for those walks that you said you'll do. When you say you go to the gym, you'll go to the gym. When you say you'll start this business, you'll start the business. And that's what creates that self-trust. So don't start with anything too huge right now. Don't get off this podcast episode and say, I'm going to work out every day this week for an hour. if you're not working out, you're gonna fail, and then you're going to hate yourself, shame yourself, and go through that never-ending cycle. Start small. First, get off this episode and just start writing down things that you have done for yourself today. You made breakfast, maybe. You brushed your teeth, like anything. Start writing down those things. I know it can sound so silly, but your mind doesn't know the difference. And you will feel better after you realize all the things that you showed up for yourself today. And then number 4 is the biggest of the whole transformation. It's letting go. It's letting go of that part of you. And sometimes letting go can show up in many different ways. You can be very creative about this. Some people get haircuts. Some people dye their hair. Some people have a new wardrobe change. Some people have new places that they go, new friends, new hobbies. All of this is you paying homage to the fact that you're letting go of the other identity that you had. The more that you start to act as if this new identity that no longer has that old self, the more that you will train your body and your mind to believe it. And that's how you will start showing up every single day. I want to reiterate, you don't need to change overnight. This isn't an overnight thing. Quick fixes never last. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to come home to the version of you that you buried all those years ago when you were just trying to survive. Because she's there. That version of you is there, but you've hidden her because you felt like it's too risky. It's not risky anymore. We're creating a safe space. That's literally what I've done with my rebrand. I am creating a safe space for you to come home to, for you to feel empowered enough to be in your own. It's called the Reborn Collective. And we're not chasing goals or trying to lose weight or whatever it is. We are just trying to feel whole and happy, reconnect with our body, rebuild our confidence, remember who we are, hear our voice, speak our truth, feel happy and confident and bright, and show up for the people that you love in your best way possible, in your best version of you. That's what this space is about. As I said, it's called the Reborn Collective. If you are intrigued about this, join my waitlist in the show notes below and I'll send out more information. It's going to be a monthly membership that's not expensive. It's not going to break the bank, but it's a space just I want to hold for those who, felt touched by this episode and felt like this is something they need. This is something they're going through. And the more that we connect as a community, the better that we can heal every part of us. Not to mention when you're in a community, it brings on like hormones like oxytocin, and that oxytocin is like the biggest balance hormone you could ever think of. Like it balances all the other hormones. It doesn't last long. So we need lots of it. And creating communities like this will help bring on lots of it. So anyway, all the links are in the show notes below. I don't think this episode was too triggering, right? If it was, there are links, as I said. Please speak to someone, speak to your GP, doctor. I will always be here if you ever want to reach out in my DMs. Instagram is usually the place to go. Otherwise, you can send me a cheeky email. I always will reply. I'll try to, unless it goes to my spam, then I forget. But eventually I will see it and I will reply. But I'd love to hold that space for you guys. I love this season that I'm going through at the moment. And I feel like there's going to be people out there that relate too. So I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to have this platform. And I will talk to you all in the next episode. Bye, guys.